She whispered, "Don't sign that contract." And the billionaire froze. Poor cleaning lady whispered, "Don't sign that contract." What the millionaire did next. Shocked. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please subscribe, tap the notification bell, and tell me where you are watching from in the comments below. It really helps the channel grow. Thank you so much. Now, let us get back to our main character. The rain had not stopped all morning. Through the tall glass walls of the Sterling Corporation, lightning flickered across the New York skyline. Inside the boardroom, the air smelled of ink and tension. At the center table sat Alexander Sterling, the youngest self-made billionaire in the city. His jaw was set, his eyes fixed on the pile of documents in front of him, one contract that could cost him everything. Across from him, a line of executives waited like hunters. They were dressed in charcoal suits, calm, smiling too much. And just a few feet away, Lila Ortiz, the janitor on the morning shift, wiped down the marble floor in silence. She had cleaned this building for 3 years, but today something felt different. The room was too quiet. "Sign it," said the company's legal advisor smoothly. "Once the merger is official, your position as CEO will be protected." Lila glanced up. The papers shimmered under the golden light, but she caught something small, almost invisible, a hidden clause at the bottom of the page. Her brother had been a paralegal once. She had seen enough contracts to know when someone was being cornered. And Alexander, despite his power, was walking straight into a trap. She hesitated. Her mop paused mid-air. Her heart thudded. It was not her business. She was just the cleaning lady. But when she saw the pen in his hand, something in her broke. "Sir," she whispered, voice trembling, "please, do not sign that contract." Every head in the room turned toward her. The pen froze an inch above the paper. The senior partner frowned. "Excuse me? Who let her in here?" Alexander's brows drew together. He looked at her, really looked at the woman in the gray uniform, hair tied back, eyes wide with fear and conviction. "What did you say?" he asked quietly. Lila swallowed hard. "I am sorry, sir. But the numbers, they are not right. Page 12, the clause about the assets. It transfers control." The executives shifted in their seats. One of them tried to laugh it off, but Alexander was already flipping through the pages. His eyes moved quickly, the color draining from his face. She was right. For a long second, no one spoke. The only sound was the rain hitting the windows. Then Alexander set the pen down. "Meeting adjourned," he said, his voice low but steady. As the others filed out, murmuring, Lila stood frozen, certain she would be fired. Instead, he walked over to her. Up close, he smelled faintly of cedar and rain. "You just saved me a fortune," he said, "and maybe something more." Lila blinked, unsure what to say. "I was only doing what seemed right." Alexander studied her for a moment, as if memorizing her face. "What is your name?" "Lila Ortiz." "Well, Miss Ortiz," he said, a faint smile tugging at the corner of his mouth, "you might have just changed both of our lives." The thunder rolled again outside. She could not tell if he was serious, but deep down, she felt it. The story had just begun. The next morning, the city looked washed clean by the storm. The skyline gleamed under a pale sun, but inside the Sterling Corporation, the air was heavy with whispers. Word had spread about what happened in the boardroom, how the cleaning lady had stopped the CEO from signing away his empire. In the employee cafeteria, people glanced at Lila Ortiz as she filled her coffee cup. Some smiled with quiet admiration. Others avoided eye contact. She did not want attention. She had rent due, hospital bills piling up, and a son waiting for her at home. All she wanted was for things to go back to normal. But that morning, as she pushed her cleaning cart toward the executive floor, the elevator doors opened, and Alexander Sterling was standing there. He was holding 2 cups of coffee. "Good morning, Miss Ortiz," he said. His voice was calm but warm. "I owe you one." "You already said thank you," Lila answered, keeping her eyes on the floor. "I did. But gratitude wears out fast when you do not follow through," he said, handing her one of the coffees. "Cream and 2 sugars, right?" I asked around. Lila hesitated. It was strange, standing next to a billionaire who remembered her coffee order. She accepted the cup carefully. "You did not have to do that." "Maybe not," he said, pressing the elevator button for the top floor. "But you saved me from losing control of everything my father built. I would like to repay that." The elevator chimed. The doors closed. Silence filled the narrow space between them. She could hear the hum of machinery, her own heartbeat, and the quiet sound of his sleeve brushing against his suit jacket. When the doors opened again, the floor looked different, brighter, quieter, the carpet so soft it muffled every step. Alexander gestured toward his office. "Please come in." She froze. "Sir, I am just the cleaning staff. I should—" "Lina," he interrupted gently, "you are the only person in this building who told me the truth yesterday. That makes you more valuable than half my board." He walked to his desk, opened a drawer, and pulled out a slim folder. "I need help," he said, his tone shifting from formal to personal. "The people who tried to trap me will not stop. They will try again. I need someone inside my circle who sees things others overlook." She frowned. "You want to hire me?" "As what?" He smiled slightly. "As my assistant, temporarily. 6 months. Think of it as a contract. Position." Lina almost laughed. "I clean floors. I do not know anything about running a company." "That is exactly why I trust you," he said. "You look at things differently. I can train you in the rest." She stared at him, unsure whether this was kindness or another trap. 6 months? "Yes," he said. "And in return, I will cover your son's medical expenses. No strings beyond that." Her chest tightened. No one had ever offered her something like that. "Why me?" Alexander's gaze softened. "Because when everyone else wanted something from me, you wanted nothing. You told the truth because it was right. I need that kind of honesty." Lina looked at the folder on his desk. The contract. Again. Except this time, it was not about power or shares, it was about trust. She took a slow breath. "If I say yes, I will do it my way. I will not lie for you." He nodded. "That is the deal." She reached for the pen. Her hand trembled, but she signed. When she looked up, he was smiling, not like a billionaire, but like a man who had finally found someone real. Outside the office window, the city kept moving, unaware that a new contract had just changed 2 lives forever. The first week of Lina's new job felt like stepping into another world. The executive wing of Sterling Corporation was nothing like the janitor's corridors she used to clean. The floors gleamed like mirrors, the air smelled faintly of citrus and ambition, and everyone walked fast, speaking in coded language that she barely understood. Her desk sat right outside Alexander Sterling's glass office. Every morning at 8 sharp, he arrived with quiet precision, carrying a folder and his phone pressed to his ear. He rarely smiled, but when his eyes met hers through the glass, he always gave a small nod, as if to say, "You belong here now." Still, Lina felt like an imposter. Her uniform had been replaced by a navy dress and a badge that said, "Executive, Assistant." The first time she tried to send an email, her hands shook. She had never used half the software on her screen. Yet, by the end of the day, she found herself organizing schedules, answering calls, and catching small errors others missed. On Thursday afternoon, Alexander called her into his office. "Close the door, please," he said. She obeyed, clutching her notepad. He leaned against his desk, sleeves rolled up, a pen between his fingers. "You have been here 4 days, and my CFO already asked if I hired a detective instead of an assistant." Lina's eyes widened. "Did I do something wrong?" He shook his head, a trace of amusement in his tone. "No. You caught 3 mistakes in the contracts he approved. You saved us $500,000. That is not wrong. That is extraordinary." She tried to smile, but her voice was small. "I just read carefully." "Do you always do that?" he asked. "Yes. Reading carefully is free," she said. He laughed quietly. It was the first time she had heard him sound unguarded. "You are going to fit in better than I thought." But not everyone was pleased. In the hallway, whispers followed her name. Some employees called her the janitor turned assistant. Others wondered what kind of arrangement she had with the boss. One woman from accounting said it out loud near the elevator. She must have something on him. Lena heard every word, but she said nothing. That night, after everyone left, she stayed late to finish the reports. The city lights spilled across her desk, and exhaustion mixed with doubt. She wondered if she had made a mistake by signing that contract. Just then, Alexander returned. He stopped in the doorway, holding 2 takeout boxes. "You skipped dinner again," he said. "That is not part of the job description." She blinked, startled. "I was just finishing the reports." He placed 1 box on her desk. "Chicken teriyaki, extra vegetables," I guessed. She hesitated, then accepted it. They ate quietly, the hum of the city filling the silence. After a few minutes, Alexander spoke again. "You know, when I took over this company, people said I was too young, too naive. I spent years pretending to be colder than I was just to survive. But yesterday, when you corrected the CFO, I saw something I had not seen in a long time." "What is that?" she asked. "Courage," he said simply. The word lingered between them. When she looked at him, she saw not the billionaire from the news, but a man who carried too much weight for one lifetime. He looked out at the skyline and added, "The people who tried to trap me are still out there. We will need to stay sharp. If you see anything unusual, you tell me first." Lena nodded. "I will." He turned back to her, and for the first time, she felt like a partner, not an employee. Later that night, when she finally left the building, the rain had returned, soft, silver, and endless. She looked up at the glowing logo of Sterling Corporation and thought of the promise she had made. 6 months. That was the deal. But deep down, she already knew something had changed. It was no longer just a contract. It was the beginning of trust. 2 weeks later, Lena stood in front of the mirror in her small apartment, trying to recognize the woman staring back. The navy dress that Alexander's assistant had chosen for her fit perfectly, but it felt like borrowed skin. Her son, Matteo, peeked from the bedroom door, holding his toy car. "Are you working with the rich people again tonight, Mama?" he asked. She smiled and knelt down to fix his collar. "Just helping them with an event." "Sweetheart, I will be back before you fall asleep." Matteo nodded solemnly. "Do they treat you nice?" She hesitated. "One of them does," she said softly. That night, Sterling Corporation hosted its annual charity gala at the Grand Astoria Hotel. It was a glittering room filled with crystal lights, polished marble, and the scent of money and perfume. Lena had been asked to attend not as a guest, but as Alexander's assistant to manage schedules, coordinate donations, and make sure everything ran smoothly. When she arrived, people turned to look. Some recognized her from the office. Others whispered behind their champagne glasses. "Is that the janitor?" one woman muttered. Lena kept her head high, clutching her clipboard like armor. Alexander appeared a few minutes later, wearing a black tuxedo that made him look effortlessly powerful. When he saw her, his expression softened. "You look different," he said. "Professional?" she teased lightly. He smiled. That too. The night unfolded like a movie. Music swelled, photographers flashed their cameras, and waiters glided between tables with trays of hors d'oeuvres. Alexander moved from one conversation to the next, his confidence effortless. Lena followed quietly, noting every detail: who smiled too easily, who avoided eye contact, who slipped business cards under napkins. At one point, a board member named Harold Blake approached her. His smile was thin and sharp. "So, you are the woman everyone is talking about," he said. "The miracle assistant who saved the company." "I just noticed something in a contract," she replied politely. He chuckled. "Luck favors the bold. Tell me, Miss Ortiz, how bold are you willing to be?" Before she could answer, Alexander stepped in. His voice was calm but firm. "She is exactly as bold as she needs to be, Harold. Enjoy your evening." Harold smirked, muttered something under his breath, and walked away. Lena exhaled. "You did not have to do that." "Yes, I did," Alexander said. "Blake was one of the men behind that merger attempt. He does not get to speak to you that way." For a moment, the noise of the room faded. It was just the two of them, standing under golden lights, the whole world spinning quietly around them. Later in the evening, the host announced that the company would present a surprise donation for children's hospitals. Alexander was supposed to make the speech, But as he reached the podium, his assistant from the PR department rushed to him, whispering something urgent. The microphone had failed, and the backup feed for the teleprompter had crashed. He looked toward Lina. "You still remember what I wrote?" She froze. "You want me to?" "Yes," he said. "You have the printed copy. Go." Her heart pounded. She stepped onto the stage, facing hundreds of eyes. The lights were blinding. She took a breath and began to speak not from the script, but from her heart. "I have worked here only a short time," she said, her voice trembling at first, then steady. "But I have seen what kindness can do inside walls built by ambition. Tonight's donations will help children who fight battles they never chose. They deserve more than money. They deserve hope." For a second, the room was silent. Then applause spread like a wave. Alexander watched her with quiet pride. The moment felt bigger than both of them. After the event ended, he found her near the service entrance, folding the speech back into her folder. "You saved the night," he said. She shook her head. "You gave me the chance." He looked at her, his tone softening. Maybe this partnership was not such a crazy idea after all. Outside, cameras flashed as guests left the hotel. Inside, under the fading echo of applause, Lina realized something she had not dared to admit before she no longer felt like a visitor in his world. She was part of it now, and for the first time, that thought did not scare her. It felt like destiny quietly unfolding. The weeks after the gala moved fast, like pages turning in a story neither of them had planned to write. Lina's role expanded beyond anything listed in her contract. She handled confidential files, attended meetings with investors, and even sat beside Alexander during strategic reviews. The staff had stopped calling her the janitor. Now they called her Mr. Sterling's right hand. But inside, Lina still carried the same quiet humility that had brought her this far. She woke early, packed Mateo's lunch, and took the subway to work before sunrise. The difference was that when she stepped off the train now, people noticed. Security guards nodded. Receptionists smiled. She belonged, at least on the surface. One Monday morning, she arrived early to find Alexander already in his office. The blinds were half open, sunlight spilling across his desk. He looked different, tired, distracted. "Rough night?" she asked softly, placing a folder beside him. He looked up. "You could say that. The same board members who tried to trap me before are back. They are planning something new. Anonymous leaks, fake audits. It is a power play." Lina frowned. "What can we do?" "I will handle them," he said. "But I cannot trust many people right now." He paused, then added quietly, "Except you." The words caught her off guard. She looked down at the papers to hide her expression. "Then I guess I will have to be worth that trust." Over the next few days, tension filled the building. Rumors spread that a journalist had received confidential documents from inside Sterling Corporation. Alexander refused to react publicly, but behind closed doors, his anger was sharp and controlled. One evening, as Lina prepared to leave, she noticed a folder sitting slightly open on her desk. It was not hers. Inside were copies of internal emails, marked confidential. She froze. Someone had planted them there. Before she could move, 2 compliance officers entered the room. "Miss Ortiz, we need to ask you a few questions," one said. "We have reason to believe sensitive information was accessed using your credentials." Her heart pounded. "That is impossible. I would never." But the officers were already gathering the papers. Moments later, Alexander appeared. His expression was unreadable. "Leave us," he told the officers. When the door closed, silence filled the room. Lina felt her throat tighten. "You think I did this?" He looked at her, pain flickering behind his calm exterior. "I do not want to believe it. But the evidence," tears welled in her eyes. "After everything we have done, after what I risked for you." He stood there, torn between logic and faith. "Lina, if someone is setting you up, I will find out. But until I do, you cannot be here. It is safer that way." She stepped back, shaking her head. "Safer for who? You or me?" He did not answer. Instead, he walked to the window and said quietly, "Go home. Let me fix this." The elevator ride down felt endless. When she stepped onto the street, New York's noise swallowed her whole. She had walked into this world by accident, and now it was spitting her out. That night, in her small apartment, Mateo found her staring at the contract she had signed weeks ago. Her signature looked fragile, almost naive. "Mama," he said, climbing into her lap, "are you okay?" She smiled through tears. "Yes, sweetheart. Sometimes grown-ups make promises that are hard to keep." Across town, Alexander stared at the same skyline, holding the folder that had framed her. He traced the coffee stain she had left on the first contract, the one she had stopped him from signing. He whispered to himself, "You would never betray me. I know it." But knowing was not enough. By morning, headlines would question everything. The city would wake up to a story that was half a lie and half a warning, and somewhere in between those halves, truth was still waiting for them both. If this fake marriage universe pulls you in, subscribe now so you never miss the next chapter. 3 days passed, and Lina's world had shrunk to the walls of her apartment. The phone calls from Sterling Corporation stopped. Her inbox was silent. Her badge access had been deactivated overnight. Every headline she saw online mentioned the same story: insider leak at Sterling, assistant under suspicion. She had read those words so many times that they no longer stung. They only echoed. Still, she refused to hide. Every morning she dressed as if she were going to work, packed Mateo's lunch, and took him to school. She wanted him to see strength, not defeat. On the 4th morning, a knock came at her door. When she opened it, Nora Patel, one of the junior analysts from Sterling, stood there holding a small envelope. "Miss Ortiz," Nora said, her voice low, "I should not be here, but you need to see this." Inside the envelope was a flash drive. "What is this?" Lina asked. "Proof," Nora whispered. "The leak did not come from your computer. Someone used your login after hours. Check the security logs. You will see the timestamp." Lina's hands shook. "Why are you helping me?" "Because you helped me once," Nora said. "You covered for me when I messed up that client report. You said everyone deserves one chance. This is yours." Before Lina could thank her, Nora turned and disappeared down the hall. That night, Lina borrowed her neighbor's old laptop and opened the files. Her breath caught as the truth unfolded on the screen: access logs, timestamps, and IP addresses leading straight to Harold Blake, the same board member who had humiliated her at the gala. He had used her credentials through a proxy account to transfer the documents. She sat back, stunned. Relief and fury tangled inside her. For a long time, she just stared at the glowing monitor. Then, slowly, she smiled. "They wanted to play games," she murmured. "Let us see how they like losing." The next morning, she dressed carefully and went to the Sterling building. Security stopped her at the door, but when she mentioned Nora Patel's name in the data files, the guard hesitated. Within minutes, the elevator doors opened, and Alexander Sterling himself stepped out. "Lina," he said quietly. His face looked pale from sleepless nights. "You should not be here." She met his eyes without fear. "You need to see something." In his office, she plugged in the flash drive. The evidence appeared, line by line: Blake's access history, the data trail, the digital fingerprints. Alexander leaned forward, disbelief turning to rage. "He framed you," he said under his breath. "He set the entire leak to destroy both of us." Lina crossed her arms. "Now you know why I could not stay silent." He turned to her, his voice softer. "I never should have doubted you." Her reply was calm, steady. Doubt comes easy when people whisper loud enough, but truth always waits for the noise to fade. He exhaled slowly, guilt clouding his features. "You saved me again." "I did not do it for you," she said quietly. "I did it because I do not like liars." For a long moment, they stood in silence. Outside the window, the city moved like nothing had happened. But inside that room, something fragile began to rebuild itself: trust. Alexander straightened and said, "I will take this to the board myself. Harold Blake will not destroy what we built." Lina looked at him, her eyes softening. "Then go. Finish what we started." Hours later, news broke that Harold Blake had resigned from Sterling Corporation amid allegations of corporate fraud. By evening, Lina's name had been cleared publicly. Alexander called her that night. "You are free to come back," he said. "But I will not ask you as your boss. I am asking as someone who finally understands your worth." Lena paused, the sound of her son laughing in the background. "I will think about it," she said gently. He smiled through the phone. "Fair enough. But no matter what you decide, remember this truth has a way of finding the people brave enough to speak it." For the first time in days, Lena laughed softly. The storm had passed, and somewhere beyond the city lights, the next chapter was waiting. The following week, Sterling Corporation felt different. The air was lighter, the tension gone. Harold Blake's resignation had made headlines, and Alexander's public statement restored the company's reputation overnight. But inside his office, there was one thing still missing: Lena Ortiz. For days, he waited for her to return. He kept her desk exactly as she had left it, even the coffee mug with a small chip on the rim. Every morning, he told himself she might walk through the door. Every evening, he realized she would not. Across the city, Lena had gone back to cleaning part-time at a local community center. The job paid less, but it gave her time with her son. She did not miss the pressure of boardrooms or contracts. Yet sometimes, when she wiped down tables or stacked chairs, she caught herself glancing at the door as if expecting someone to walk in. One afternoon, while she was helping organize donations, the director called her to the front desk. "There is someone here to see you," she said with a smile. Lena turned and froze. Alexander Sterling stood there, out of place among cardboard boxes and children's drawings. He was not wearing his usual tailored suit. Instead, he had on a simple shirt, sleeves rolled up, holding 2 paper bags. "I brought lunch," he said quietly, "and an apology that took too long." She hesitated, torn between surprise and warmth. "You did not have to come all the way here." "I did," he said, "because last time I asked you to trust me, and then I broke that trust. I am here to earn it back." They sat together on a bench outside. The city noise drifted in from the street, but the silence between them felt peaceful. He handed her a sandwich and looked out at the playground where Mateo was running with the other kids. "You built something real here," Alexander said softly. "Something I could never buy." Lena smiled faintly. "You cannot buy peace. You have to choose it." He nodded. "Then maybe it is time I start choosing differently." For a moment, neither of them spoke. The sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the pavement. It was not a grand reconciliation, not yet just 2 people sitting side by side, finally seeing each other without walls between them. When Alexander stood to leave, he turned to her and said, "If you ever want to come back, not as my assistant, but as my partner, the door will always be open." Lena watched him walk away, the noise of the city swallowing his figure. For the first time, she did not feel small next to his world. She felt equal to it. And that, she realized, was what real freedom felt like. 2 months passed. The scandal at Sterling Corporation became yesterday's news, but the changes it caused ran deep. Alexander restructured his board, cut ties with corrupt partners, and launched a new division focused on community outreach. The first project on the list was a partnership with the community center where Lena worked. When the announcement came, Lena did not believe it at first. She thought it was a coincidence until the morning she saw his name on the new sponsorship plaque outside the building. Later that day, a small crowd gathered for the official opening of the renovated classrooms. Children clapped, reporters took photos, and volunteers lined up with boxes of supplies. Lena stayed near the back, wiping paint from her hands, not wanting to draw attention, but then she heard his voice through the microphone. "This center represents everything I forgot when I was chasing success," Alexander said. "It reminds me that real strength begins with compassion." His eyes found her in the crowd. For a brief second, the world around them blurred. "There is one person here who reminded me of that," he continued. "She showed me that integrity is not a title. It is a choice we make every day." Lena froze, feeling every gaze shift toward her. Alexander stepped down from the stage and approached her slowly. "Miss Ortiz," he said, his tone soft enough for only her to hear. "I told you the door would always be open. I am not asking you to come back to my company. I am asking you to build something new with me." She looked at him, unsure if she had heard correctly. "Something new?" He nodded. "A foundation. One that gives people like you a second chance, single parents, workers who never got seen. You understand them better than anyone." Lena's heart pounded. You think I could do that? I do not just think it, he said. I know it. The applause started again, but neither of them noticed. In that moment, the distance between the billionaire and the cleaning lady vanished. They stood on the same ground, equal in purpose. When the crowd dispersed, Alexander extended his hand. So, he said with a quiet smile. Partners? Lina looked at his hand for a long moment, then took it. Partners, she said. The handshake was simple, but it carried everything they had endured: mistrust, redemption, and the courage to begin again. As the children ran past them, laughing in the afternoon sun, Lina realized that her life had come full circle. The woman who once whispered, "Do not sign that contract," was now signing something far greater, a promise built on truth and faith. A full year had passed since that first whispered warning in the boardroom. The world had changed quietly around them, not with headlines or grand gestures, but with small acts of rebuilding. The Sterling Foundation had become real offices, staff, and projects spread across the city. They provided scholarships for workers, medical grants for children, and job programs for single parents. Every morning, Lina walked into the Foundation's headquarters with the same feeling she once had when cleaning the floors of Sterling Corporation Purpose. Only now, the building carried her name beside Alexander's. The sign read, Sterling Ortiz Foundation, Building Futures with Integrity. One afternoon, as she reviewed applications, Alexander stepped into her office. He was dressed casually, without the usual formality that once defined him. In his hands, he held a small envelope. "Open it," he said. Inside was a framed photograph. It showed the two of them at the community center's first groundbreaking, surrounded by children and volunteers. Across the bottom was a handwritten note. "We did not sign a contract. We made a promise." Lina smiled softly. "You still remember that first day?" "I remember every word," he said. "You told me not to sign something that would ruin me, and you were right. The only thing worth signing is the one written with truth." They stood together at the window, watching people cross the street below. Life moved in a steady rhythm, messy, imperfect, but full of meaning. Alexander turned to her. "Do you ever miss the old company life?" Lina laughed gently. "No, I think we built something better." He nodded. "Something real." Outside, the sky glowed amber as the sun dipped behind the skyline. The light spilled across the Foundation's lobby, where a new plaque was being mounted for their next project, a scholarship fund named the Second Chance Program. Mateo ran in, holding a drawing for his mother. "Look, Mama, I made our family." He pointed proudly to 3 stick figures holding hands beneath a big yellow sun. Lina bent down, kissing his hair. "It is perfect," she said. Alexander smiled at the picture. "He got one thing right," he murmured. "The sun never really sets on people who keep trying." The moment was simple, but it carried everything that had brought them here. The doubt, the courage, the forgiveness, and the quiet miracle of 2 lives rewritten. As the lights of the city came on, Alexander reached for Lina's hand. "No contracts this time," he said. "Only promises." She squeezed his hand in return. "Then let us keep them." And together, they stepped into the night, 2 souls who had turned a false beginning into something beautifully real. If you want more Untold Billionaire love, subscribe and choose your next chapter on screen.